All right, everybody, welcome back to our professional interview series. I'm Dr. Michael Bradley. Today I've got a guest here, Dr. Stephen Sims. Um, Dr. Sims, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are
Good.
you doing today?
You know what? It's the sun's shining.
I
Uh,
see that.
you know, it's a beautiful day. Everything's seems like it's going pretty good for the week. So, um, before we go too far down, tell us where you're at, what you do, your title,
Sure.
and all that.
Well, my name is Dr. Stephen Sims. My full-time job, or my primary job, I guess you would say, is actually being the general manager of Somersplash Waterpark, which is a municipality water park located in South Central Kentucky. Um, I do that, and then that's basically, I guess you would say, through the all but 3 months out of the year. It's basically my 7 to 3 o'clock job. And then from there, I am also actually a certified athletic trainer. And so I do sports medicine for the local hospital. And so as I finish here at the water park, I basically load up and go over to the local high school until practices are over or games, just depending on whatever's going on that night. And then, of course, when that's over, my day's done.
Yeah.
And then, kind of like Groundhog's Day, you get up and do the same thing over tomorrow. But it's something I really enjoy, and I always say if it's only work if you feel like it's work. It's
Yeah.
something I really enjoy doing, and as long as I enjoy doing it, it's not really it doesn't feel like work.
Sure.
So
Well, so let's get to know Dr. Sims a little bit more. Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
yeah, I'm actually from here in I guess you'd say Somerset, Kentucky. I'm about 10, 15 miles down the road, so I'm kind of a homegrown. Um, Originally, I went to Eastern Kentucky University to get my undergrad degree in athletic training. Then I've done some internships with the Buffalo Bills and done all that. I got my first master's degree in sports administration. When I got through with it, I got hired on at a local physical therapy clinic. Total Rehab Center was the name of it. And I
Yeah.
stayed there for about 4 or 5 years and realized that was not what I wanted to do at all, was be inside constantly, day in, day out, um, basically working with workman's comp, vehicle um, insurance claims and things like that, and older adults. And then after a while, I just realized could only count 3 sets of 10 so many times throughout the day. And so I knew that at that point in time, it was time to do something different. They actually offered to pay for my DPT, or my doctorate in physical therapy. And I told them I appreciate that, but that's not what I want to do. And
Yeah.
so at the same time that was going on, I was starting another master's degree to go back to actually be a high school teacher, physical education health teacher. And then in the meantime, the job here at the water park came open, and I thought, well, what the heck? I was a grad assistant at EKU in aquatics, and so I had some experience there. I knew I had a master's degree, and I also done a lot of lifeguarding, going through school, in the summer, through high school and through college. And so I thought it was a great fit. And of course, it is political. So not being from this area makes it kind of hard sometimes. A lot of times, hometown politics or small town politics it's just as tough as big town politics, I guess you could say. And here it's basically if you know somebody, the old rule, if you know somebody, they can help you out. And of course, I was basically an implant. And so I didn't know if I had a shot or not. So I'd interviewed for it. Actually, I talked to the previous mayor back in February. And so I hadn't heard anything. So, like I said, I went on to Union College and took some classes there, started working on my master's degree in education. And then out of the blue, they called me up and said, I guess about March or April, said, could you come in for an interview for the water park? And I said, sure. So I went for the interview, had it, thought it went great. There was a board that they had put together. Still to date in the city of Somerset, I'm the only department head that has ever had to go in front of a search committee. which was probably a good thing because they was wanting someone from outside the local realm or politics,
Yeah.
and I fit that. But they actually called me back. That was, like I said, back in April, and so I hadn't heard anything. April, May, and a week prior to the water park opening, I was hired. And on that Monday before the park opened on a Friday at 1 o'clock, they said, "Hey, you're hired. You want to? Would you like the job?" I was like, "Well, maybe, sure." And so I went ahead and took it. And basically, it was like giving someone the Porsche, or the keys to a Porsche, and said, "Here, don't wreck it. Just bring it back home at the end of the season." And I still remember the director of Parks and Rec at the time. The water park and Parks and Rec are actually two separate departments here at the city.
Okay.
And so you don't see that very often. A lot of times, the municipalities, the water parks are actually put in with Parks and Rec, but it was a little different here. And so I still remember the director who was running the park at the time because they were waiting to fill that position. He said, um, "This was the only thing he ever told me. He said, only thing I can tell you is you open at on Friday at 1 o'clock, so you probably should order some food." And I said, "Okay, so who do I call? What do I do? Who do you all use?" He said, turned and looked at me and said, "I'll tell you what, I've got a guy." So when someone tells you they've got a guy, it's kind of hit and miss. You never know what kind of guy is going to show up, but it turned out to be pretty good, and we made it through. It was rough. The mayor at the time, I was always told, didn't really like the water park, and but he ended up after he actually saw the park opening, and like I said, I'd never stepped foot in the water park before in my life. They just built it the previous year, and so there was 1 year prior to me coming, and it was the mayor's first season, and so we were both standing in front of the or looking out at the parking lot saying, "Where is everybody coming from?" Because we're a small town of 10,000 here in Somerset, and I want to say by the end of that year we had around, I want to say 70,000 people that came through. So
Oh
we were
wow.
pretty
Yeah.
pleased. So we was pretty pleased.
Yeah.
So
What so how you said you're a lifeguard and you had some experience as a GA with the aquatics there at Eastern Kentucky
mhm.
University. What got you into aquatics? What was the beginnings of that?
uh, basically, I worked at a resort, and they had a swimming pool out beside the restaurant that I worked at. And I thought, well, that would be an easy way to make some extra money. And so I decided I'd go and I got certified. And then actually, I would work at the pool from, I think I went on shift about 8 o'clock. I had to be there to get the pool ready for the day. And I would work 6 days a week at the pool
Yeah.
and I would get off on Mondays. But I would go from 8 to 4:30. And then from 4:30, I would go from the pool, I would change and go inside and then work at the restaurant from 4:30 to close, 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So
So
you
I've
kind
done
of got
that
a
since.
history of these long days.
Oh yeah, it's nothing new. Like I say, that's probably one of my biggest drawbacks is I'm a workaholic. I know some people, I just enjoy it. It gives me something to do. I don't get bored. And I always try to find those jobs that are not routine. I get
Yeah.
bored very easily, and that's one of the worst things that I find personally is that if it stalls out, it gets dull, it gets boring, then I'm ready to move.
Yeah.
Just because I have to have something different going on,
Sure.
and that's one thing I've enjoyed about Parks and Rec and about the attraction industry in itself. You never know, and one thing you can guarantee is tomorrow's going to be different.
Yeah.
Don't know how, don't know what, but it will be different. And that's what I like so much about it.
And so you've overseen some changes there at your water park. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Oh, yeah. We've seen actually a lot of changes. In 2010, we added to our park. And like I said, we went from 70,000 up to almost 100,000 people on that build. And of course, we've had some issues here and there as far as maintenance problems, I guess you would say. We've had tried to put liners in our pools that were supposed to be done, or they said that it would take 3 weeks, and 4 months later they were still here. And so, of course, that had dropped some people off, I guess you would say, as far as attendance. We went from 100,000 down to, I want to say, about 67,000, somewhere along through there.
Yeah.
But and it was nothing that we done. It was basically a subcontractor that didn't finish. Basically, what we ended up doing, they still wasn't finished. And I told them that they need to hurry up because we're going to open the pool July 1. They didn't believe me. And so come July 1, they were somewhat close to being finished, but nowhere near it. So I had my maintenance guys, I told them, I said, go ahead and go get the hoses. I said, let's start filling the pool up. And so within a week from that point, they had the pools finished and they were in and out. So
Yeah.
basically, we literally started adding water to the pools, and they were working as the water was coming up because I
Yeah.
told them you said 3 weeks and it's been 4 months.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we've added and changed things around and stuff like that. Of course, with mayor changes, and one thing about politics, you can guarantee every 2 to 4 years things will change. Um, I've been very fortunate. Both mayors that I've worked for, they basically leave me alone. They say, you're the professional, you know what's going on. We rely on you and we'll let you do your job. And if you have any problems or need anything, come talk to us. Which you don't see that very often, to be honest with you. A lot of times they want to be right in the middle of everything, or they want to put someone up here to watch what you're doing and things like that. But of course, I mean, we're going to do what needs to be done, and it doesn't matter who they put up here. But that's usually the biggest hurdle that you have to jump in politics.
Sure. So you talked a lot about your water. So take us talk to us and tell us what's at your facility. Walk us through your
Oh,
facility a
yeah.
little bit.
Sounds good. We've actually, for a municipality, we're probably the largest municipality park here in Kentucky. We've got 20 acres, and on that 20 acres, probably 5 to 6 acres of it is actually developed for the water park. We have a bowl slide, a speed slide. We have a lazy river. It's actually the largest in Kentucky. We've got a wave pool, body slides, tube slides, activity pools. We're hoping to build again. We're looking at that aspect of things. Unfortunately, it's not cheap to build. Like I said, the one in 2010, it was a little over $2 million, and this next expansion that we're looking at, even for a water park our size, it's going to be close to four, maybe a little over $4 million.
Yeah.
So nothing is cheap when you go to add stuff into a water park, no matter what it is, because they can basically name their price because they know that you have to have it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we got here. And then also on this property, we have a Cal Ripken complex, which is, I think there's 6 or 7 fields over there. So we bring in a lot of tourism, and we get a lot of tourism off of that throughout the summer and things like that as well. So there's nothing for us to have a park here, and we may have anywhere from, you never know, on a typical day about 1,000 people, but on a good busy day we'll have anywhere from 3 to 4,000 people inside the park.
Yeah.
So it keeps you moving.
Sure. And so tell us about your staff. So how big is your staff? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I would say, in first of all, in the off season, there's basically 3 of us that are full time currently. I'm hoping to add a fourth coming this next fiscal year in July. But basically, there's myself, and before we hired the an, another guy, I guess you'd say, our I don't really know what his title is. He's my assistant, basically. We don't really have a title for him, and I can't really say what we call him half the time. But anyhow, we but he basically helps me with selling passes and doing that little stuff like that that I can't do. But primarily, I do all the marketing, all the concessions, ordering foods and supplies and stuff like that. I do all the hiring. I do a majority of the lifeguard training and staff training. Uh, but like I said, we've got 3 in maintenance right now. One's part time, full time, and then myself and Austin, my assistant. And then when the season gets here, we actually will go from say 4 to 5 people, up to about 120 to 130. And so most of those are high school and college kids. We will have several adults that want to come back, and they've been working here for a while. And a lot of times, once we hire them, they're here for anywhere, well, through high school and through college. Some of them still come back. Some of them I've had for 10 years that work other jobs and they still just like coming and hanging out at the water park.
Yeah.
And so I've got 4 or 5 of them that's been here at least 10 to 11 years now. So we're doing something right. I always say that, if you can get that kind of loyalty and coming back, then you're doing something right.
Yeah. So you lightly touched on it. You talked about your degrees. Could you tell us a little bit more, or step us through the different degrees you have and how you prepared professionally?
Sure. Uh, well, going through high school, I knew I wanted to be an athletic trainer. I know that I was sitting at the house watching an Atlanta Braves baseball game, and I saw someone getting hurt. I always love sports and things like that. But I was laying there on the bed watching the game, and I saw one of their players get hurt, and I'm like, "What's that guy doing?" Of course, he jumps out of the dugout and goes running across over the left field, and I'm like, I love athletics. I'm not good at athletics, and I knew I didn't have any professional abilities to be in athletics. But I thought, that guy, he's got both a padded seat. He's on the front row. He's hanging out with the players and stuff like that. So I think that might be something I like to do.
Yeah.
And so from that day on, I always wanted to be an athletic trainer. And of course, EKU at the time Eastern Kentucky University had the only athletic training undergrad program in the state. And so it was very highly regarded in that field. And so I went there. And while I was there, I was able to do a couple of years of summer internships with the Buffalo Bills. And I knew that majority of us had master's degrees. And I knew that was something I was going to get. And so I also knew that it was easier to get it before you started your actual career. And so while I was in the process of getting certified and all that sort of thing, I went ahead and started working on my master's in sports administration. And from there, like I said, I had gotten out of school or started working at a physical therapy clinic, learned real quick. I didn't want to do that. And so I kind of fell back up on to the sports administration master's program. That's kind of what got me my foot in the door here. And the gentleman that was the head of the Parks and Rec at the time, he was big into sports, and he knew what athletic training was, and he could see that I worked with the Bills, so he knew I had PR and could work with people and stuff like that. So that aspect of my resume really paid off and helped out. And so
Yeah.
after a couple of years of being here, I always wanted to get my doctorate because, to be honest with you, going through high school, I was always that student, that BC student. I was never the one. I never really devoted my time, I guess you'd say, to being an A student. I knew I could do it if I wanted to. I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so I remember there was one day at high school, our guidance counselor, I walked up to her and said, I would like to talk to you about going to college and seeing what I can do, how I can get some financial aid and that sort of thing. And she just kind of looked at me and shrugged me off and said, I got better things to do right now. And I know you're not going to go to college. And I'm like, well, fine. I don't really need your help anyway. I
Yeah.
can do whatever I want to do and do it myself. And so that kind of lit a flame under me wanting to get my doctorate degree.
Sure.
And so when I came here to the water park, um, I'm probably the only person that has ever read our handbook from cover to cover, because I actually, where I was working in Parks and Rec, there was a section in the handbook that said that they would help pay for continuing education as long as it focuses on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I had gotten a job offer in Texas to go run some water parks down there. And so I went to the mayor's office and I told him, I said, Mayor, I've had some opportunities to go run a water park in Texas. And he just kind of gave me this look like, oh no, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
He said, okay, so what do you want? He goes, I guess you're wanting more money, that sort of thing. I said, actually, no. All I want is for you to help me with my education to go back and get my master's and also a doctorate degree.
Yeah.
And he said, "That's it." He was like, "I've never heard anybody come in here and ask a question like that before, and that's all I got to do." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Done." He said, "That way, I know you're locked up, and if you're taking classes and going to school, you're not going to leave on me."
Yeah.
So basically, that's kind of how I got my second master's in Parks and Rec Administration. And then from there, I was kind of figuring out where to go. And that's when I came and talked to you one day. And you told me to look at that doctorate of education that EKU had, because the closest one in tourism was in UT, University of Tennessee in
Yeah.
Knoxville. And that's about 2.5, 3 hours away from here. And so he was like, "Well, why don't you just look at this program?" And so I did, and I was lucky enough to get in it. And you helped me a whole lot through that. And I still to this day appreciate everything that you've done for me and pushing me and getting me prepared to go through my doctorate degree. And it was a walk in the park uh, once I got there and was working on my dissertation and that sort of thing. Um, I was amazed when I got into that program of the amount of people that were supposed to be at the doctoral level that had no idea how to write a research paper or where to even start writing a research paper or any of that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
which just blew my mind because, I mean, you prepared us for what we needed to know as long as we were willing and listening to you. And
Right.
that's what I do appreciate and all that sort of stuff.
No,
Because I know a lot of people didn't, but you, I do appreciate everything that you had done for us or for me and the other students. And so, I mean, yeah, that's kind of how I got through all of that. And I
so
want to say it took me I think I got my master's in Parks and Rec in a year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, year and a half. And then I got my doctorate there in 2.5 years. So,
yeah.
and worked 2 full-time jobs on top of that.
Yeah,
So,
in general, if you're not Steven Sims, I'd recommend not doing that.
yeah, no, I do too. Especially during the summer, there's a lot of times because here at the water park, I will work 80 hours a week, 80, 85 hours a week is nothing. And then that's when I was working on my dissertation and collecting over 1,000 surveys in what, 2 months or 3 months. And
Yeah.
luckily, you and Dr. Maple said, "That's plenty of surveys." That was the most that anyone had ever collected, I believe, at the time for that department.
No doubt,
And
right?
so I remember writing the paper and things like that, and about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, waking up at my kitchen table, raising my head off of my keyboard, going, "Where am I? What's going on?"
Yeah.
So that's one thing people, always tell me that they don't have time for this or that. I'm like, you can't give me that. Trust me.
Yeah. No, I think that something you said that a lot of folks kind of don't understand it as they're a student or a graduate. You're right. Is a graduate student is just with the time commitment. It's different when you get older, but
Yes,
it's you don't realize how good you had it until you're past that point.
correct.
Because some of the things you like, and I was just thinking about my graduate assistantships, both at my PhD and master's level, right? And, during those moments, you're thinking like, oh, this is so much work or so busy, and then now that I'm further down the road, I look back and be like, that was nothing.
I know.
I had time to watch a movie back then, stuff like that.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah.
you're in the water park industry now, and you're very active. Can you talk about some of the associations you're involved with and what you do with those?
Yeah. Um, One of them is the World Water Park Association. Um, and of course, it's worldwide. Probably about, I want to say there's about 10,000 people probably involved in that one,
Okay.
which is a good organization for water parks. There's at one point in time when I first got into this business, there was only about 1,800 water parks in the world that were basically freestanding water parks. So I've done my time and all that kind of stuff. So I got to the point where I wanted to be involved more in the WWA because here it's a small municipality water park, and a lot of times we get overlooked because we only have 70 to 100,000 people and things like that, where you've got your Disneys and other Universals and other big theme parks like that that's bringing in over a million, 1.2 million, 1.5 million people a year. They basically have like the Magic Kingdom. They'll have 75,000 people, and that's our whole summer, in
Yeah.
one day. But a lot of times we get overlooked, and so one of the things is I always like to be at the top of whatever I'm doing. It gives me something to shoot for and strive for. I don't like to be at the bottom, and I finally started making a name for myself as well as with the for the water park. Now a lot of people in the water park industry or even amusement park industry, they know of Somersplash Waterpark. They know who I am. And like I said, this is a small water park here in Somerset, Kentucky, with a population of a little over 10,000 people. So to be put on a world stage like that, that's really big. But I've been a part of them ever since 2007, whenever I took the position here.
Yeah.
And I've worked into being part of a committee, the education committee. So we actually look through we do a lot with the shows and that sort of stuff. Whenever each year we look through whoever submits uh, for a speaker at our symposiums and stuff. So we review all of those. We do all that. I write articles and stuff for their magazine, monthly magazine. So I stay busy with that organization. But then I kind of realized I got to the top of that pinnacle.
Okay.
It's, I mean, of course, you could get on the board of directors, but I don't really want to do that because if I do that, I can't be on these other boards or organizations at that point in time because of the conflict of interest and all that kind of stuff. So I noticed that I got to the height of that one. So then I put my sights onto IAPA, which is the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. And we had on there the last, of course, not in, I guess 2019 was the last time we actually had an in person symposium for IAPA. If we brought in 50, there was close to 50,000 people that attended that from all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's actually the largest organization in this industry that I'm part of. You've got people coming from Europe, uh, the Middle East, all over the place, China. Um,
Where was that conference held at?
it's held yearly in Orlando because that's one
Okay.
of the only places that's big enough to host that many people.
I imagine so.
In the trade show, there's over 12 miles of people or different booths and stuff like that that's actually housed there. It's unbelievable. They set up roller coasters inside and rides and stuff like that. So going through, you can eat food and see if that's what you really want and that sort of stuff. Ride rides and do games and arcade games and all that stuff as much as you want to. But I really got interested into that organization, and I got to the point now where I am actually on another committee, which we basically do advocacy for the theme park industry. So I'll actually fly to DC usually once a year and advocate on behalf of the water park industry and IAPA, or the amusement park industry and IAPA. Uh, that's pretty nice. That one, they actually pay for everything. They pay for you to fly up there. They pay for your hotel room, your food, your board, everything. So to get on there, to kind of put in perspective, it's kind of funny. There's 12 of us on there, and I want to say it's basically VPs from Disney, Universal, SeaWorld. Um, you've got people out West Coast, Knott's, and all those places.
Yeah.
Uh, and then at the bottom, you see Dr. Steven Sim, Somersplash Waterpark. And I know everybody's like, Somersplash Waterpark, where is that? And so I've made a lot of contacts and things like that over the years. And then just recently, I was selected to be put on a committee to write the new certification program for IAPA as well. As a subject matter expert, is what they call us.
Yeah.
So, wow, never thought of it that way, but hey, if you want to call us that, that's what we'll be.
Right.
So we're basically writing a new certification program for individuals that are in the industry and looking for ways to, of course, bump up their pay and that sort of thing. And one of them that we're working on right now is the executive branch of amusement park industry.
Okay.
So I'm constantly doing things like that. And I found that the more you're involved in your field and the more you do, uh, don't only look good on you, but also your organization. Uh, and I mean, I've made connections and things like that. Say, for instance, 2 weeks ago, I was offered a job on the East Coast at an amusement park, water park, and it was a salary of 110,000 plus a revenue share. So you could get up to, I mean, it depends. You may get up an extra 40, $50,000 according to the revenue, or heck, who knows, maybe 80 or 90,000. So I mean, there's really good offers and opportunities there for me. But currently, I really like where I'm at. I enjoy doing the athletic training. I know if I leave this spot, I'm not going to be ever find a spot that I can do both things that I love and have the freedom that I currently have because the hospital that I work for, the orthopedic surgeon, as long as I show up to the games and to practices, they don't even know I'm there. And make referrals to them. And then here at the water park, the mayor, he's basically do what you need to do. Um, if we have a problem, I'll call you, or if you have a problem, call me. And other than that, we don't see each other. And I told him when he first won the election, I said, Mayor, I just want to let you know that I'm not one of those individuals that's going to sit in your office and constantly be around and pestering you or wanting this or wanting that and that sort of thing. I said, I'm pretty much all business. So I go in and I'll have my list made out and we'll go through it in about 15, 20 minutes. I'm usually up and out of the office, and his secretary always says, I'm going to have to start timing you because most people that come in spend all of his time. And I know he's got more important things to worry about than if we need to add $2 to a entrance
Yeah.
or change the layout of how to, our price layouts and stuff like that. So I figure if I can't explain it in 20 to 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, then I'm wasting both his time and my time because I've got other things I could be doing as well instead of sitting there and just making small talk.
Sure.
And he appreciates that. And he'll tell me that every time. He goes, I love seeing your name on there. I know it's going to be fast, straight to the point, and you're going to bring whatever is needed as far as graphs or spreadsheets or whatever to show this is why I need it and this is why I don't, or vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
He said it'd be so much easier if people would just bring that type of stuff with them instead of just saying, yeah, I think we need these new garbage trucks. Yeah, they're $400,000 a piece and blah blah blah. So how's that going to help you? That kind of thing. Well, we'll have one on standby, and then we can have two or three, and I'm, and so he appreciates that. Just coming in, getting to the point, and going. So
Um,
that's kind of what I do.
yeah. The so a lot of people don't think about the water park industry or aquatics as far as professional career path, right?
Right.
And we see that a lot, that people kind of end up there rather than pursuing
Start.
it from the very beginning. And you kind of had, and you're very similar, right? Although you had an association with water park and aquatics, that wasn't
Yes.
necessarily your goal. So initially,
Right.
what would you say as far as what are some positive aspects about water park professionals or making that your profession that you would give to, tell us what the good aspects are and why people should pursue it as a profession.
Oh, to me, honestly, if I had to choose between this or athletic training, I would definitely do amusement parks, athletic training. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, amusement parks, water parks, attractions, and that sort of thing. A lot of times people look at it as one of those jobs that you can't make no money at doing this or that. And like I said, I had an offer to go to the Middle East actually and run a huge water park over there.
Yeah.
Um, and they offered about $400,000 plus room and board, plus living expenses, plus clothing expenses and food. I mean, it was unbelievable. but I just didn't want to go to the Middle East right now or anything like that. If I was single, I would definitely have done it in a heartbeat. But my wife didn't really want to move that far. That's one reason I'm still in Kentucky. She didn't want to leave her family to begin with, and there's no way I was going to get her to go halfway across the world.
Yeah.
And but I mean, there's money to be made in this industry, and people just don't realize that. A lot of times, people kind of stick their nose up at it and things like that. But one of the biggest things about Parks and Rec, and even in this industry, is we're getting paid to watch people have fun. Our whole goal in our life is to make people have fun, forget about what's troubling them outside and that sort of thing. And that's what I really like about it. And the other thing is, like I said before, I was in a clinic. I've been at a place where I count 3 sets of 10 for 8 hours a day, and that's just not fun. And here, you can guarantee something new, something different is always going to happen. It's something that's going to keep you on your toes, and you get to meet so many people, and that's just part of it. And I mean, as far as across the United States, um, back when the COVID hit, this big pandemic hit and stuff like that, I mean, I had the general manager at did one of Disney's water parks call me and ask me how we were doing things up here in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's the connections that you get and all that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I mean, typically, I want to say once you get into management at a water park, good sized water park, you're looking at making anywhere from 30 to $50,000. And of course, that's around a municipality. Private will be privately owned, of course, will pay more than that to start off. Sorry about that. But so, I mean, there's just so much. And the one thing that I just love about it is it changes. And the best part about it, you could be having the worst season ever. And for me, that's only 3 months. If I can make it for 3 months, I'm golden for 8 or 9 more months. I
Yeah.
don't have nothing to worry about or anything like that. So just kind of sit back and relax and get ready for the following season. But there's a lot to this industry, and there's a lot of responsibility in this industry. I told you before there's 120 to 130 people that work here, and I'm responsible for all of them, including the 70 to 100,000 people that might come in that summer.
Yeah.
So you do have a lot of responsibility on you, but at the same time, it's always just like any other industry. As long as you surround yourself with top quality people, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really who it falls back on. At the end of the day, the staff. If you hire the right people in this industry, your life is going to be a piece of cake. Of course, sometimes you select the wrong people, and
Yeah.
you can usually tell within the first 7 days whether they're going to make it or not.
Yeah. So, and I know our time here is kind of wrapping up. So before we leave, you know, we're doing this for folks that are considering looking into this profession as a
Well,
lifelong goal or whatnot.
let me. When I first, like I said, I originally wanted to be an athletic trainer.
Yeah.
And that was my goal. I mean, I even had an internship over in NFL Europe at the time. Uh, but of course, I got struck by the love bug. She didn't want to leave or didn't want me to leave and all that kind of stuff, so I stayed here. But at the time, I just really never thought of something like this to be a career path.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things that, looking back on it, that if I'd known this was a career path or that there was any possibility, because like I said, when I got started, there was only 1,800 of these around the world.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were on every corner or anything like that. And we didn't have all those aquatic facilities, I guess you would call them, where they got one or two slides in them now. But it was kind of a hidden gem, to be honest with you. And it's just something that most people don't ever consider or look at, or they may go and visit one of these, but they don't ever stop and say, there's people that actually work here. And when we're all gone, they can ride the slides or ride the rides, do
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. So, I mean, honestly, if I had to that's probably the only thing that I would have changed if I had known about it,
Yeah.
would be going into this sooner.
Yeah.
Because I always said, of course, with me, I was kind of thrown into it when I got hired. Basically, if you get hired the week of the opening, you're kind of thrown into it. And so I never really had that chance or the possibility to work under someone that's been in the industry. Basically, everything I've done is self taught. I've not had anybody to help me along the way or nothing like that. So to have that or to get that opportunity to have an internship to where I could go, I've got people here all the time. I give opportunities to go to like SeaWorld or to Disney. A lot of times we get a lot of people. I had one of my lifeguards said she wanted to do an internship down at Disney at a water park. I said, well, what do you want to do? And so she told me what she wanted to do or whatever. So I picked up the phone and called Ron, the general manager there, and said, hey, Ron, I've got a girl here that wants to work at, this water park.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, we'll pencil her in. As easy as that.
Yeah.
Click. I said, all right, you're done. And she's like, there's no way. I said, oh, yeah, you'll be getting an email. And sure enough, within an hour, she got an email that said exactly what she wanted, where it is at, and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, there's that aspect of things that I wish that I had the opportunity. And if I had taken Parks and Rec before, instead of waiting until I got into the career and really learned about the industry, um, that's some of the stuff that I would have liked to have done and had an idea of what was going on whenever I first got started, instead of just kind of learning as you go and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, sir, I don't want to take any more time. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
No, I love doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sharing your
fun.
experiences. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
and I had fun. It's always have a good time catching up with you.
You too.
Sincerely appreciate it. And if we'll say I'll bid you adieu, and then but if you need anything after that, you certainly let me know.
Definitely will. Same here, Mike. Anytime I can help you, just let me know.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sims.
Thank you all.